Good afternoon, Williston. It's great to see everybody here. Welcome to the 6th annual Williston Northampton Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony. It's great. We started this, as I just said, 6 years ago. Had no idea how popular it would become. It is popular, and one of the best parts of it for me is seeing our current students in here, because I think it draws that connection between the exploits that you have athletically and then those people that we're honoring today. I also think it allows you to kind of target those Hall of Fame people so you can know whose records you're about to knock down, which is an awesome thing too. So I'll let Mr. Conroy come up here in a sec, but I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee, which is Mr. Mark Conroy and Mr. Jay Grant, for their leadership in assembling today's event. And then I'll ask Mr. Conroy to come up now, Athletic Director, to recognize the athletic achievements of our present-day Wildcats. Mr. Conroy.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We gather today to celebrate new inductees into Williston's Athletic Hall of Fame at the end of what has been another wonderful year for Williston Athletics. Here is just a sampling of the many highlights of this past year. A field hockey player who made the prestigious National Field Hockey Association All-Region team. A record-setting performance by a defensive end who also earned the Boyden Award given to the top prep football scholar athlete in Western Massachusetts. A winter season in which for the first time in our school's history, every winter team qualified for NEPSAC championship tournaments. Boys and girls squash teams that both earned the Sportsmanship Award at their respective championships. A four-time MVP of the girls ski team who ended her career by winning the slalom race at the NEPSAC championship. A girls hockey team that made it all the way to the championship game for the first time in our school's history. A girls basketball team that made it to the championship game for the first time in 32 years. A girls swim team that has rewritten almost every school record on its way to its third consecutive NEPSAC championship. And recently, a softball pitcher who has just surpassed the incredible milestone of 500 strikeouts in her career. Just a couple others to note. A tremendous 3-year run by our boys golf team, winning nearly 50 matches over that stretch, and a girls water polo team enjoying unprecedented success in our school's history the last 2 springs. It is also worth noting here this afternoon that a remarkable 4 recent graduates have made a name for themselves in Williston on the national stage by being named College All-Americans this year. Imagine that, 4 College All-Americans. Springfield College sophomore Jake Ross, class of 16, led his school to its first ever Final Four while being the only sophomore in the country to be named a Division III All-American. Bentley wide receiver Austin Ryan was named a Division II All-American in football for his incredible freshman year performance. UMass soccer player Davis Smith was one of only 2 freshmen in the country to be named to the NCAA Division I All-American soccer team. And Harvard junior Gabby Thomas continues to make a name for herself on the national track and field stage by being named an All-American for a remarkable 5th time this winter. She accomplished this in style by breaking a 10-year-old NCAA Division I record and winning the indoor 200-meter title. Pretty amazing. Additionally, I think it is worth noting that we have 41 members of the class of 2018, over 30% of the class, that will be competing in college next year, a testament to the strength of our program. In short, it has been another tremendous year for the record books, which brings me back to the reason why we are all gathered here today, to celebrate some of the athletes who came before our current students and have left their marks on Williston's athletic history. Let's turn our attention to this year's group of honorees. This year we'll be inducting 6 individuals and 1 team into the Hall of Fame. As they did a year ago, we will have 7 current student athletes who will make presentations to this year's class of inductees. First up is senior Gabby Jones. Come on up, Gabby.
Hi, my name is Gabby Jones, class of 18. It's my privilege to present Mr. Jay Grant for induction into the Hall of Fame. Little did anyone know the impact that a late summer hire in 1978 would have on the Williston community and its athletic history. A young Springfield College graduate by the name of Jay Grant was hired by the school to be its first ever full-time athletic trainer. As an athletic trainer, Mr. Grant proved early on to be a leader in his profession. His calm demeanor, expertise, and ability to form relationships with each and every student were just some of the qualities that made him exceptional. Beyond his contribution to the school as an athletic trainer, Mr. Grant also contributed significantly to the school and the athletic program in numerous other ways. He was an invaluable assistant athletic director for 22 years to Rick Francis and then for 16 years to Mark Conroy. In his administrative role, Mr. Grant took on many responsibilities, just a few which included overseeing all the school's athletic department record-keeping and athletic program sign-ups of all the students each season, maintaining and overseeing all the athletic department purchases of equipment and uniforms, and working closely to support the work of all the program coaches. Additionally, Mr. Grant coached boys ice hockey, leading the team to the Williston's first and only Dubsec Hockey Championship. In the latter part of his career, ever mindful of the best interest of the health and well-being of our students, Mr. Grant was instrumental in introducing impact concussion testing to our community, putting Williston at the forefront of his important Return to Play initiative. Upon his retirement and recognition of the commitment to Williston, Mr. Grant and his wife Betsy received the school's Distinguished Service Award. Without question, Jay Grant's contribution to Williston athletics epitomized an exceptional measure of devotion to everything he touched during his 38 years at Williston. I would like to invite Mr. Jay Grant to the stage to accept his award.
Thanks, Gabby. Like the other recipients today, I'm truly honored and humbled to be here. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to say a few thank yous. When I look back at my career at Williston, I'm struck by how fortunate I've been. I've had lots of luck along the way and did my best to make the most of it. That luck started near the end of the summer in 1978. I had just finished my master's in athletic training at Western Michigan, and I was home in Eastern Mass working on a farm, as I had through high school and college. I got a call from George Dunnington, who was then Williston's business manager, asking if I was interested in coming for an interview for an athletic training position that had just opened up. I was in East Hampton the next morning to interview with George. It was the beginning of Labor Day weekend. The campus was pretty deserted. No students were around, most faculty were away enjoying the last days of summer. I never met the head of school, athletic director, coaches, or any faculty members, just George. He explained that the athletic equipment manager had just resigned and that for the last few years, Rick Francis, the athletic director, had been pushing him to hire an athletic trainer. The job would combine running the equipment room and being the school's first athletic trainer. So I went home, and later that evening, George called to offer me the job. It was a chance to start an athletic training program from scratch, and the job included housing and meals. It was a pretty easy decision for me. My farming days were over. I packed up my car and was on campus the next day. Preseason sports started 2 days later. Who would have guessed that I'd still be hanging around Williston 40 years later? That first year was a blur, but I learned that I really liked working with high school kids, and athletic training was right for me. I enjoyed more good luck the following year. Miss Odell, a hot young Spanish teacher, joined the faculty. Well, one thing led to another, and 2 years later we were married and were dorm parents in Willie Cottage, now Conant House. Starting out, neither of us expected to spend our whole working careers in one place, but it turns out that Williston was the place for us. We were lucky enough to raise Sam and Jill here and see them take advantage of all that Williston had to offer. In my years at Williston, I worked with two athletic directors, Rick Francis and Mark Conroy. I was really fortunate to work for such a long time with two of the most highly respected athletic directors in NEPSAC. Thank you both, Rick and Mark, for all your guidance and support over the years. I got lucky again when in 1997, we hired a young kid out of Springfield College to be the assistant athletic trainer. She was barely older than most of our PGs. Melissa Brousseau and I worked together for almost 20 years. We improved and grew the athletic training program to be one of the best around. Thank you, Mrs. B, for always being there and for all you continue to do for our students. And finally, I've been lucky enough to work with thousands of great kids over the years. Most of the students that I worked with are now alums, and the rest of you will be before you know it. Because of you, what I did never really felt like a job. I got paid to hang out in the gym, go to games on Wednesdays and Saturdays. You all helped to make this the perfect job for me. Thank you, Williston community, and good luck, seniors.
Thanks, Jay. Will Junior Ryan Dwyer please join us on the stage to present the next inductee? Coming up, Ryan.
Hi, my name is Ryan Dwyer, class of 2019, and I am proud to present veteran swimmer Rex Aubrey, class of 1953, for induction into the Hall of Fame. Holding a national record while still in high school is one thing. Qualifying for the finals at the Olympic Games before he even entered college is another. This all happened for Rex Aubrey before he attended Williston. To say that Rex Aubrey arrived at Williston in the fall of 1952 with an impressive swim resume would be an understatement. Representing his home country of Australia, Rex held a number of national records and became a finalist at the 1952 Olympic Games held in Helsinki, Finland, before he arrived on campus. Not surprisingly, while attending Williston Academy and swimming for legendary coach Wilmot Babcock, Mr. Aubrey left his mark on our swim history. He was ranked the #1 prep school swimmer in the United States for both the 50 freestyle and the 100 freestyle, while also anchoring the record-setting 200 freestyle relay team. Continuing his winning ways, Mr. Aubrey became an NCAA champion while competing for Yale, claiming individual titles in the 50 and 100-yard freestyle events, along with the 400 freestyle relay. Incredibly, at the age of 21, Mr. Aubrey became the world, American, and NCAA record holder in the 100-yard freestyle with a time of 49 seconds flat. Without question, Rex Aubrey was one of, if not the greatest swimmer in our school's proud swimming history. After graduating from Yale, Mr. Aubrey devoted his career to remaining in the field of athletics, where he coached swimming and directed athletic clubs in Omaha, Nebraska, and Detroit, Michigan. Mr. Aubrey currently lives in Michigan with his wife. Unfortunately, Mr. Aubrey has a family commitment and could not be here today. One of his classmates, Mr. Neil Schoonmaker, class of 53, is accepting the award on behalf of his friend and classmate.
Words of wisdom from Rex Aubrey. First, let me express my regret at not being able to attend the Williston Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony and the class of 1953's 65th reunion. My granddaughter is getting married this week in Michigan. I have many fond memories of my year at Williston. It was a quantum leap for a 17-year-old from a small country town in Australia to one of America's finest prep schools 10,000 miles away. The support and guidance of headmaster Phil Stevens and the mentoring and friendship of housemaster William Lawman came particularly helpful. Little did the swim team realize back then that we would help launch a legendary coaching career of first-year swim coach Wilmot Babcock. To my knowledge, Coach Babcock did not have any swimming background, but was going to learn. He spent most of his Christmas break at Yale University learning from renowned Yale swimming coach Robert Kippeth. The 1953 squad had many All-American swimmers. Co-captain Don Miller was ranked the #1 prep school butterflyer in both his senior and junior years. Freestylers Ted Fitzsimmons, Ted Skip Curris, Chip-eyed and backstroker Stan Kroc, and diver Jack Erickson were All-Americans and ranked high in prep school listings. 1953 was Coach Babcock's first New England championship, and as you probably know, many more were to follow. My thanks to everyone who contributed to my election to Williston's Athletic Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call Senior Aboud Abuisa to the stage now for our next presentation. Aboud?
Good afternoon. My name is Aboud Abuisa, class of 18, and I'm proud to have the honor of presenting Archer Bryant, class of 1968, for induction to the Hall of Fame. Returning for his 50th reunion this year, Mr. Bryant certainly left his remark on Williston. By all accounts, he was the type of student athlete who took full advantage of opportunities in athletics, academics, and in the community. As an athlete, Mr. Bryant was widely regarded as an outstanding competitor, winning the Denman Award in 1968, given to the top senior athlete in the school. In the fall, he was a strong contributor to the football program, where he excelled as a skilled player on both sides of the ball. With his exceptional speed and coordination, he was described by the Willistonian as an extraordinary athlete. In the winter, Mr. Bryant traded in his cleats for skates, playing left wing on the hockey team. His aggressive style and playmaking skill made him a tremendous asset to Williston hockey. In the spring, he captained the lacrosse team, where his inspirational leadership was noted by his teammates. An outstanding midfielder, he was recognized with the Frank Dorsey MVP Award during his senior year. Without question, Mr. Bryant was one of the truly exceptional all-round athletes at Williston during his time. Not surprisingly, athletics have remained an important part of his life. For many years, he generously gave of his time to coach youth hockey. He continues to compete today, playing adult ice hockey as the oldest member of his team, which has held the title of league champions for 4 of the last 5 seasons. Mr. Bryant says that not a day goes by that he doesn't reflect back on some part of his experience as a student at Williston Academy. During his professional career as a cinematographer, he says that the leadership skills and teamwork he learned on the Williston athletic fields were incredibly valuable to his work on numerous national television commercials and shows. I would like to invite Mr. Archer Bryant, class of 1968, to the stage to accept his award.
I'd like to thank the powers that be that saw fit to give me this award, because I don't think my athletic career was that exceptional. 50 years ago, I spent my last night at Williston down at the hockey rink, crying my eyes out. I knew I was never going to play another team sport here at Williston. The school was incredibly important to me, both its athletics and its academics, and it affected my life profoundly. I was one of these students that worked their way up on the athletic teams. My first year here, I wanted to play football, and there were 5 football teams. And I was on the 5th football team as a receiver for the first couple of years. Then I moved all the way up to the 4th team. That was Mr. Duggan's team. He was a great coach. He knew his players and he knew me. And the first game we played, I didn't score any points. And I was really kind of bummed about that. And after that, nobody else on the team scored any points. I scored every other point we scored that season. And we won our share of the games. In our last game, there was a back that was out on a sweep, and I was running along with him, and I threw a block that broke him free, and he scored a touchdown. Unfortunately, I got called for a clip, and the touchdown was called back, but my record was preserved. Mr. Duggan gave me hell for that, too. But that got me recognized by Coach Francis, and I was asked to try out for varsity. And I made the varsity team the next 2 years. And there was one thing I really wanted to accomplish, and that was to be able to kick a football as far as Coach Francis could. He could kick it a mile, and he could throw it further. I never could do that. And I was the short guy in the huddle, so Mr. Francis wanted to beef me up a little bit, so he used to lie about my weight on the program for the other team. My first year here, I took a look at the pond out here and the hockey rink that they put on. I went out for skiing. And my second year in the winter, I don't know what happened. All my friends were going out for wrestling, so I went out for wrestling. That lasted about 2 days. Any sport that you can work hard at and not eat isn't my kind of sport. Finally, I came to my senses. They had built the hockey rink, and I went down and went out for hockey. I was on the 3rd hockey team. I'd never been on a rink like that before. I couldn't lift a puck, but I could skate pretty well. And after that, I played varsity for the next 3 years. That was Mr. Carpenter's team. He was a great coach, and he knew me and he knew his players. And we used to practice 2 nights a week. And after those practices, we'd come in and we'd have hot tea in the locker room after practice. And if we'd won the game before, Mrs. Carpenter made us an incredible red velvet cake that was just really good. My first spring, I played tennis, and that wasn't active enough for me, so I went out for lacrosse, and I played lacrosse for the next 4 years. And I was on my 3rd year, I played on Coach Eustace's team. He was a great coach. He was one of those people you just liked immediately when you met him. He was a hell of a coach and a hell of an athlete. He was an All-American at Brown. And that team went undefeated. And then I played varsity the next 2 years. And in my senior year, while we were playing lacrosse, I used to sneak down to the hockey rink in the evenings and play hockey on a club team from Ludlow. But Mr. Archibald, who was our coach of lacrosse, he also ran the Zamboni. He caught me down there one night, and that ended my hockey career. Didn't know how much this affected me in my later life until last summer. Dave Werner and Bob Couch came down to Mystic on an alumni event, and we had a cup of coffee before the event. We had a great talk. And then Dave asked me, he said, well, what sports did you play at Williston? I said, well, I played football, hockey, and lacrosse. And he gave me kind of a funny look. He said, those are 3 helmet sports. Nobody does that anymore. Well, I thought about that. And the more I thought about it, the more things started to make sense, and I had a grand revelation. I'm a 3 helmet sport athlete. No wonder I've done some of the dumb things I've done. And if you'll indulge me just a little longer, I'd like to give you an example of what I'm talking about. In my early 20s, I lived in a house that had we had a fireplace in the living room that had a brick facade on it. And we didn't like the mantelpiece on it, so I said, well, I can take that off because with what I learned at Williston and hockey, I can do anything and I'm invincible. So I knocked this thing off, and there was a little space between the bricks and the wall. So I stuck my hand in there, I kind of tugged on it a bit. Go, wham! The entire brick facade came crashing down off the wall onto the living room floor. And when the dust settled, I was amazed I was still standing in the living room and I wasn't in the basement. When I went down and looked in the basement, I cracked all the floor joists. Now try and explain your way out of that one. Now, for most of my professional career, I was a cinematographer in the film business. And on one occasion, we worked on a commercial for the National Wildlife Federation, and we were working with Bart the bear. Now, I'll be willing to bet everybody in this room has seen a film that's had Bart the bear in it. I mean, for over 20 years, he was the most photographed grizzly in Hollywood. He even made an appearance on the Academy Awards one year. And we were out in the middle of Utah and working with Doug Seuss, who was Bart's owner and trainer. And Bart came up and explained how you work with the bear. And they run a hot wire out around. They create a big area, and Bart stays inside that hot line. And then Doug looked around and says, well, who wants to be inside here working with us with the camera? So I'm a 3 helmet athlete. I want to be in there. And Doug walks right up to me, looks me in the eye, and he goes, whatever you do, don't run. And I thought, there's probably a good reason he's telling me that. So Doug goes off and he gets Bart, and here they come back. Here comes Bart. Boom, boom. Bart weighs almost 1,000 pounds. Boom, boom. He comes up and he starts sniffing my leg up and down. Bart's head is this big. I'm looking down at Bart saying, this bear could do whatever he wants to me. Nice, Bart. Nice bear. Well, on that particular day, Bart and Doug weren't getting along that well. And Bart decided he would go off on a little jaunt, and he turned and he kind of hopped away, and Doug yelled at him to stop. And Bart stopped, he turned, looked back at Doug, then he turned around and he hopped over this little hill and disappeared. Well, Doug took off after him, and he went up and over this hill and down the other side. Well, I'm standing there in the middle of this area, I'm holding my camera, and all I can hear is Doug screaming and yelling, and Bart moaning and groaning, and dust is flying up in the air. Then it gets really silent. And I'm standing there, I look over my shoulder, I go, where's the nearest vehicle? But I'm not running. And I'm looking out wondering who or what's gonna come walking up over that hill. Now my personal favorite in this regard is when I was doing a film for the Rodeo Clowns Association. And a rodeo clown is called a bullfighter, and they work the bull rides. And these guys are all 3 helmet athletes because they've picked for their profession to get in a ring with this 1,500-pound jumping, screaming, spitting, kicking animal, and it's their job to, when the rider falls off, to go up and slap this thing on the end of the nose and get that thing to chase him. Who would do a job like this? And they have a barrel, an aluminum barrel, that is padded a bit, and they can hop in that barrel and Bull can kind of throw it around if they need to. Well, I'm looking at this barrel, I'm thinking to myself, you know, if you turn that barrel over on its side, and I crawled in there with my camera and I held it out the front, I could get an incredibly low angle shot of a bull ride. So I approached the bullfighters with us, and naturally they all thought this was a great idea. So we hatched the plan. We put the barrel over. I crawl in, I can kind of see out. I'm kind of holding the camera here like this, and we're lined up, and they open the gate, and here comes the bull. Boom, 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 boom. And then it kind of disappears, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And then, bam! All of a sudden, I'm spinning this way. Then I'm spinning this way. Then I'm bouncing around like that. And it's all I can do to keep myself inside this barrel and hold on to the camera. When we got the footage back, it was incredible. I was right, it was just an incredible shot. You saw the bull coming, and then he disappears up, and he comes back down. His 2 front feet come down right in front of the lens. His back 2 feet came down inside the barrel. And he was none too happy having this thing stuck on his feet. So he put a lot of extra effort into getting rid of it, and I just went along for the ride. Now my wife Jeannie, she's right over here, who's a hell of an athlete on her own part, was made all Detroit in field hockey in her high school. She's convinced I'm still suffering effects from being a 3-helmet athlete. You see, I voted for Donald Trump. Jeannie did not vote for Donald Trump. Nobody Jeannie knows voted for Donald Trump. In fact, I don't know if there's anybody else in Mystic who voted for Donald Trump. If we went to a dinner party and politics would come up, it was a lot of anxious moments for Jeannie. But since the grand revelation of being a 3-helmet athlete, all that's changed. Now if we go to a dinner party and politics comes up, Jeannie puts on her best sad girl face, shakes her head a little bit like this, and then announces that, well, you know, in high school, Arch was a 3-helmet sport athlete, and everybody gets it. She's immediately raised to the most sympathetic person in the room. Her friends come running over, they want to administer the concussion protocol right there on the spot to see how much brain damage it actually suffered. So, all these athletic events have some effect on your future. But I want to thank, really, this school had a tremendous effect on my life, both in the academics and in the athletics. And I am absolutely honored to be given this award. And I thank this school for giving me the gifts of the education and for letting me strap on a helmet and go bashing into people on a regular basis, something I thoroughly enjoy. And I would just like to say, if there are any other 3-helmet sport athletes out there, whatever it is that you've done that seem a little off, it's not your fault. Thank you.
Thanks, Arch. Can I ask Senior Mason Balls to please come up to the stage to make the next presentation? Mason?
Good afternoon. My name is Mason Balch, class of 2018, and it is my pleasure to present Todd Francis, class of 1983, for induction to the Hall of Fame. Todd Francis was no stranger to Williston when he enrolled here in the fall of 1977. The son of longtime athletic director and coach Rick Francis, Mr. Francis grew up right here on campus. Not surprisingly, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, as athletics became a big part of his Williston experience. An accomplished 3-sport athlete, Mr. Francis won the Denman Award given to the top senior boy athlete in the school. In the fall, Mr. Francis captained and was the MVP of his father's 1982 football team. During the winter, he played hockey for Coach Bob Shaw. While he was a strong contributor to both these programs, he made his biggest impact in the spring as a member of the lacrosse program. A 3-year starter at goalie, Mr. Francis captained the team as a senior, earning all New England honors. He then went on to a tremendous career at Cornell, where he, as a senior, earned all Ivy and all academic honors as a long-stick midi while helping lead his team to the national championship. Following his graduation, he wanted to play for the professional indoor lacrosse team, Boston Blazers, for 10 years and captaining the team in his final year. After retiring, he followed in his father's footsteps by beginning a long coaching career in which he has coached on both the high school and international level. On the international level, he has helped coach the U.S. national indoor lacrosse teams in both 2007 and 2014. After many years at Newburyport High School in Massachusetts, he is currently the head coach of Plant High School in Tampa, Florida, where he's led the team to a record of 123-38 over the past 9 seasons. Mr. Francis, please join us on stage to accept your award.
It's an impressive young man right there. I'm glad Arch went first. Mom, Dad, 3 helmet sport athlete. Explains a lot. And also, there's one other thing I want to concur with. Jane Carpenter's velvet cake was phenomenal. Unbelievable. As they mentioned, I grew up here, and this was probably the greatest life that you could have growing up. Not only the community with the parents and the students and the teachers and growing up, the facilities were unbelievable. So I was just very fortunate to have grown up. We lived at 10 Payson Avenue. You guys know it as the parking lot behind Mem Dorm. The day after we graduated, the day after Dad retired, they knocked it down and it's now a parking lot. So it works well. But my brother and I had the luxury, along with a lot of the other faculty kids, of this place really being our playground. The rock that sits out here with the plaque on it used to sit somewhere around here. And it was a perfect 7-iron from right inside Mem Dorm to the rock. We later found out that the windows behind us are a perfect 4-iron. So there were a lot of things that we had the opportunity to play in the hockey rink any day we wanted. And this was the place that really fired my passion to play lacrosse. And I've had the luck of, after 20 years of being an engineer, to get back into it full time. And I really enjoy working, much like my dad did, working with kids and affording them an opportunity to use sport to get them a better education. And that's what Williston instilled in me. I don't know that I would have been an early decision candidate at Cornell. Just turns out that I had the luxury of being a pretty good lacrosse player. One other thing that Arch asked me a question of is, what made you be a goalie? And this is just a pretty funny story. But they used to make the sticks here, or they did a trial run of injection molding sticks here in East Hampton. And through the youth hockey program, one of the mothers had 3 sticks. So my dad got them and brought them back and had them strung up. And I don't have an older brother. I mean, I don't have a younger brother. I am the younger brother. So Jeff and Jim Shaler took the 2 normal sticks, handed me the goalie stick, and told me to go stand in front of the fence. Started throwing stuff at me. And I kid you not, that's what turned me into a goalie. I loved it. My passion for it grew from there to something that it's taken me all over the world, and it's put me in front of thousands of kids to be able to coach and mentor them and hopefully, lead them to a better path in life through a better education and really giving yourself a passion for everything. So these days where there's so much pressure with young kids of sports specialization, as I said, a 3-sport athlete, tennis was also a huge passion of mine as a kid. As a matter of fact, Doc Gow, when I was driving up here today, my mom mentioned that this used to be alumni sports weekend. And one other thing that we used to do is Doc Gow, who was the girls' tennis coach, would have a mixed doubles tournament. So Hank Bear, if he's here yet, please show your hand, because Hank was my co-football and lacrosse captain, and I would make him wear a skirt and a wig, and we would go play in the mixed doubles tennis tournament. And Doc Gow would actually set us up with the #1 girl and him as our opponent in the first round, and we would lose. But that's the fun. We played all these sports around here because it was fun. We didn't come out thinking about where we were going to get recruited and what kind of scholarship we were going to get. And one thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands about youth sports these days is don't take the fun out of the game. That's why we play it. We want to go have fun. We want to enjoy it. And if we can get this opportunity, that's great. So, thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Can I ask Senior Tori Palumbo to come to the stage to present the next inductee?
Good afternoon. My name is Tori Palumbo, class of 2018, and I have the privilege of presenting Molly Matthews Connor, class of 88, for induction into the Hall of Fame. During her time at Williston, Miss Connor was an accomplished three-sport varsity athlete in field hockey, ice hockey, and lacrosse. In the fall, she was one of the leading scorers for Coach Ann Pickrell's field hockey team. In the spring, she was a captain and MVP of the girls lacrosse team. During the winter, she was a captain and MVP of ice hockey during both her junior and senior years, scoring 76 points during her career at Williston. In the spring of her final year, in recognition of her outstanding accomplishments, Ms. Connor was awarded the 1988 Alumni Award given to the top senior female athlete in the school. While on road at Williston, she also played for a local club ice hockey team, the Connecticut Polar Bears, that won a national championship in 1986 and were runners-up in both 1987 and 1988. Her outstanding career at Williston earned her a scholarship to play at the University of New Hampshire, where she enjoyed a terrific career as part of the two ECAC winning teams, the highest team accomplishment at that time for women's hockey. Not surprisingly, Miss Connor continues to be very active in sports today. She has spent many years coaching lacrosse and continues to play ice hockey today, helping lead her senior team to the 2006 and 2011 Massachusetts State Championship, as well as the national quarterfinals. It is my great pleasure to invite Miss Molly Matthews Connor to the stage to accept her award.
A little bit more of a reader. Earlier this week I was telling my son that I was nervous about speaking in front of you all. Finn, you are wise beyond your 13 years. He told me to just speak from my heart. So this is what my heart says. I came to Williston as a reserved and somewhat nervous 10th grader. My proctor, Kelly, said to Curl, who was my French house dorm parent and future coach, "She can't be a hockey player. She is too quiet." I was so nervous that I cried the entire first night. My roommate Marcy can attest to that. She's here today. I know not everyone here is an athlete, but everyone here can strive to be their best self. If you would consider these points. 1, challenge yourself. It has to come from within. 2, everyone has a role in a group. Coaches, first liners to fourth lines, the comedian to the DJ. 3, there will always be a better player, so be humble. 4, have fun, play, and laugh. 5, encouragement is priceless. All programs have to start somewhere. I call this from then until now. Girls hockey was a new program, and they gave us a locker room downstairs. I'm pretty sure it was an old boiler room. The stairs were metal, so we had to put our skates on upstairs. But really, the worst part was when they only did the ice between the second and third periods in those days. But we took rest, dare I say, in the boys' locker room. Woo! It was smelly. I could not even breathe in there. I don't know if anyone's been in a boys' locker room, but whew. Anyway, before Williston, I had played hockey for about 7 years, but my hockey role here was more of a combination of playing, but also of inclusion and teaching. Most of the students I was sharing the ice with had never played before. I love seeing my friends improve. The day-to-day success, the hard work, the mitosis drills, Doc, a biology teacher, and the fun we had on the ice brought us together. As Coach Doc would say, we are a scrappy team. And we were not perfect, ups and downs, but we had purpose and we collectively worked on our goal of being hockey players. And I'm so proud of how far the program has come. I wore my Willie sweatshirt with pride at the girls' state semifinals this year. I love that I'm still learning the game, still trying to master the self-pass off the back of the net that Christina showed me at a local pickup game. Christina, on the hockey team. Let's see, and after having my career at UNH, learning systems, personal development, championships, I've sort of come full circle to my hockey today. I have a regular league team that I play on, but I also I play some pickup with some older women, 30s, 40s, and 50s, who just picked up the game, and it is so fun to share with them my knowledge and help them learn and to experience hockey, because obviously it's the best sport, right? Anyway, I'd like to quote the great Bob Orr. "No one is going to succeed on their own. What sometimes looks like an individual accomplishment is always the result of a team effort." Well, my team includes Williston. Thank you, Williston, for a place to be, a place to thrive, for all the smiles and for all the friendships. My team is also my family. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Thank you. Thank you for taking me to my games, my practices, and encouraging me. Thank you, Ryan, my life's partner in crime in crazy athletic endeavors, for the love and support. And thank you to Ben, Maggie, and Finn. I literally could not be more prouder of who you all are. I love you. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Our next presenter is senior Danny Marquez. Come on up, Danny.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Marquez, class of 2018, and I am honored to present Miss Melissa Bordone, class of 2003, for induction into the Hall of Fame. Melissa Bordone arrived at Williston in the fall of 2001 from her native Canada, where she enrolled as a junior. To say that she left her mark on Williston during her 2 years here would be an understatement, as she immediately became an impact athlete on the field, on the ice, and in the pool. In the fall, she was a strong contributor to 2 outstanding Williston soccer teams. In 2001, her team finished runner-up in New England, while in 2002, they won the school's first ever New England Prep School Championship in girls soccer. During the spring, she led Coach David Korakowski's girls water polo team as leading scorer, earning all NEPSAC honors. While Miss Bordone was a major contributor to these 2 sports, the reason she decided to leave home and attend Williston was to pursue her love of hockey, specifically playing goalie. A team MVP both seasons, her stellar play between the pipes earned her recognition as one of the top goaltenders in New England girls prep hockey. Her outstanding accomplishments during her 2 years at Williston earned her the 2003 Alumni Award, as well as a full scholarship to the University of New Hampshire. At UNH, she enjoyed a phenomenal career as their starting goalie all 4 years, finishing with an astounding record of 86, 19, and 1. Here's just a sampling of her accomplishments during her college years. 4-time Hockey East Goaltender of the Year, 3-time All-New England goaltender, school record holder in wins and shutouts, and she is still currently ranked 3rd in all-time NCAA Division I wins and shutouts. A Frozen Four appearance in 2006, during which her team was the #1 ranked team in the country. Additionally, she was named to Team Canada's U22 team, while also being recognized by Sports Illustrated with a Faces in the Crowd feature. Not surprisingly, post-college, Miss Bordone has continued to stay competitive as a dedicated marathon runner, qualifying for and competing in the Boston Marathon 6 times, including last month. It is my great pleasure to invite Miss Melissa Bordone to the stage to receive her award.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. It's such an honor to be standing here in front of you all today. It's hard to believe that it's been 15 years since I left the Williston campus to embark on the next chapter of my life. I'd like to extend my gratitude to Mr. Conroy, the nomination committee, and the Williston community for having me here and presenting me with this award. It is very humbling to be inducted into the Williston Hall of Fame, knowing the incredibly talented student athletes who have come before me and those who sit here in front of me today. I would also like to congratulate the other nominees here who are being recognized for their accomplishments as well. Being a student athlete at Williston has had a significant influence on my life and has helped shape me into the person I am today. It is where I learned the true meaning of hard work and dedication, among many other skills that have carried me through to my adult life. It's where I learned the importance of friendship and community and what it's like to truly fit in somewhere. For the first moment that I stepped on the campus for soccer training camp, I knew that I was somewhere special and I would meet people who would have a forever impact on my life. I would especially like to thank a few individuals, some of who are here today, for their support throughout my time at Williston. Mrs. Conroy. Is Conroy here? For all those nights you welcomed me into your home for dinner and helped me with my math homework. I was terrible at math, but somehow you found a way to make it fun. Even though I'm yet to use algebra in my adult life, nor do I see that day coming anytime soon, I am grateful to know that if it does, I will be prepared. Thank you for being a second mom to so many of us and for being our biggest fan on game days. Mr. Needs. Is Mr. Needs here? Yes, Mr. Needs. For letting me go buy your coffee at the start of class every day and never asking if there was any change. I think that alone paid for my morning breakfast once a week. Thanks for always being so laid back and for teaching me not to take life so seriously. To my hockey coach, Coach Kinsler, for always believing in me on the ice and challenging me to always be better. Without your support, I wouldn't be standing here today and I would have never had the college career that would follow. Despite our hockey team having its challenges in the wins column, we weren't the team that you guys are today. You always found a way to keep our spirits high. You taught me there was more to sports than just winning and what it takes to be a true leader. Coach K, for introducing me to the rock band Whitesnake and singing it at the top of your lungs at practice. I can honestly say Here I Go Again found its way onto my running playlist, and every time it comes on, I think of you and your not-so-stellar singing voice. Thanks for always making us laugh and for being such a kid at heart. To my teammates, for the memories that I will forever cherish and the bond that we shared over the years. From sleepovers at the rink, our hockey trip to Europe, the wins and the losses, you were what made Williston so special. We have all grown apart since, but as an adult, I've come to realize that those friendships will forever be irreplaceable. If I had a message to the soon-to-be grads here today, it would be to do everything you can to keep those friendships close and cherish this special time that you'll have together. To my best friend Mandy, who I'm so happy to have here with me today, you have been the biggest fan and support in everything I do, and I can't thank you enough. And lastly, to my parents, for all their unconditional love and sacrifice, and for making the drive every weekend from Montreal to be there in the stands supporting me no matter what. There's nothing I wanted more than to make you proud. The values you have instilled in me, especially perseverance and determination, are what made me the person and athlete I am today. Thank you again for this wonderful honor.
Thanks, Melissa. And finally, to recognize our final inductee, could I ask Senior Annabelle Farnham to please come forward?
Good afternoon. My name is Annabelle Farnham, class of 2018, and I'm proud to present the undefeated 1983 girls varsity swimming and diving team for induction into the Hall of Fame. Led by head coach Tom Crane and assistant Mary Hawken, the 1983 Williston girls swimming and diving team enjoyed a truly remarkable season. As the first undefeated girls swim team in our school's history, the team finished with a perfect 11-0 record. Only 3 girls swim teams have accomplished this feat: 1983, 1989, and most recently, this year's 2018 team. There were many terrific dual meet wins during the 1983 season, highlighted by an exciting victory over rival Suffield and a thrilling season-ending win over a perennially tough choke team. The team's success was highlighted by breaking a remarkable 8 school records. Team captain Wendy Libby set a new school diving record that lasted until 2002. She remains on her school's honor roll as one of the top divers in school history. Fellow diver Mary Ellen Bull was an outstanding diver as well, joining Wendy on the school's all-time diving honor roll. Also setting school records that winter were 2 of the team's relays, the 200 medley and the 400 freestyle. The record set by the 200 medley relay team of Vicki Natardi, Michelle Kennedy, Karen Whittaker, and Melissa Peters still stands on our school's honor roll as one of the top relay swims ever in that event. Setting individual records that winter were Laura Morsman in the 100 free, Michelle Kennedy in the 100 backstroke, and Vicki Natardi in the 100 fly, 200 IM, and 500 free. The team finished 3rd on the highly competitive CISAC Swim Championships in Connecticut. Swimming against the top swimmers in the prep ranks, the 400 freestyle relay team came in 2nd, Vicki Natardi finished 2nd in the 100 fly, and Wendy Libby came in 2nd in diving. It was truly a remarkable and memorable season for this special team. Will coaches Crane and Hawken and all team members present please join me on stage to receive your awards.
So as Annabelle said, we were the first undefeated girls swim team, but not the last. So kudos to the current group. I imagine there's some swimmers out there in the audience now. Is that true? Yeah. It's hard to measure up to the challenge of the Babcock years in swimming here at Williston, Northampton. But one thing that we had that the Babcock teams did not was girl power. You have to understand that at that time, Williston was an entirely boys' school. So it took us a few years to get there, but the outcome was terrific. I've been told to keep this short. This is the last presentation, so let me first acknowledge the wonderful accomplishments of the swimmers and divers of the 1983 team. I think Annabelle did a pretty good job of summarizing those. I will not recognize individuals right now other than to say that Michelle Kennedy, I'm going to use your original name, was a terrific backstroker and one of the leaders on that team. Everyone contributed. I only wish that there were more members of the team here today, but this is Mother's Day weekend, unfortunately. Instead, I'd like to share just a couple of things. First, some context. In 1982, our team was undefeated going into the last meet of the season against choke Rosemary Hall. We lost. Many of the swimmers felt pretty dejected at the result. And Karen Whittaker Kovacs, who unfortunately can't be here today, reminds me that on that occasion I actually wrote a poem to the group and read it called The Undefeated Season. Now I won't burden you with the poem. I'm an English teacher, so it's hard for me to keep this short in any event. The central point of the poem was that loss is a forgotten but important part of sports. There is always someone bigger
always someone faster or smarter than you are, as my father once told me. As a swimmer, I eventually learned not to get wrapped up in what the other swimmer is doing, but the real competition is with oneself, recognizing and then striving to exceed one's own limits. This can be pretty frustrating and lonely, especially when one is in the middle of what we call a plateau in swimming, where you go sometimes for weeks without any improvement. And this brings me to the second point, that something more is needed in the midst of the plateaus to keep swimmers interested and motivated. It's a grueling sport and can be very boring. As one wit once said to me, "Who swims laps up and down the pool over and over just to get to the same place at the end that they began?" What's the point? Well, practices are meant to be demanding, but they're also meant, or there has to be some kind of fun. This is where I had some learning to do, and I'm going to recall something that Karen Whitaker said to me. "You are such a hard-ass, Craney." It was at or about this time when Mary Hocken, my co-coach, came to my rescue. She found ways to develop team spirit that I hadn't thought of, one of which was the famous chocolate fondue evenings at her apartment over in Swan Cottage. We would bring chocolate bars, fruit, pieces of bread, anything to dip into this wonderful sweetness. And at these get-togethers and later on long bus trips to away meets, swimmers bonded. And as was said in the introduction, this ultimately culminated in a tremendous show of team spirit at meets against Suffield and Choate. And we managed to do in 1983 what we hadn't done in 1982. We finished undefeated. So hats off to you alumni that were part of that season, and congratulations on the recognition you are receiving today. And I'd like to ask my cohort here if they want to say anything, please join me up here.
He was a hard ass. He was a hard ass, and I cannot say how incredible swimmers are. I swim just for fun across Popper's Pond in Amerston back, but swimmers have a determination like no other sport, and I'm a tennis player still and do various other things, but swimmers, just the sheer guts that they have is incredible, and I am full of admiration. It was a high honor to be part of this incredible team, and to work actually with Tom was okay. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's a great honor, and I'm just amazed. I can say wow to everything I've heard today, from the athletes historically to present. It's just amazing what's come through Williston. I'm proud to be an alumni. I was a swimmer. I started at the age of 9, came to Williston 9th through 12th, had a blast. And sports is about having fun. I can say, we're supposed to say a few minutes about how we think it's reflecting back into what it's brought into our life. As I was speaking to my daughter coming here on the way, I can say that I think for all sports, for myself as well as being a swimmer my whole life, I think it teaches you self-discipline, perseverance. It makes you who you are today, and it lays a foundation for who you're going to be in the future, your success. So I just want to say thank you, and that's it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Conroy, student presenters, all of our guests, and our inductees for joining us this afternoon. I'm Jill Stern, the Director of Alumni Relations, and I have a tiny little piece of business, which is that the Hall of Fame honorees, please stay seated so we can escort you to have your photos taken, and there is a reception for you and your guests at the International Terrace right behind us at Reed. And I'm now inviting Stephen Berlanga, our Director of Choirs, to come up and lead everyone in the singing of Sammy. Students, good luck in your games today. Mr. Berlanga, the stage is yours.
Y'all better stand. Okay, so this is not gonna go like it did last year, where they call me up on the stage and make me get you to sing and then nobody sings, and then it's really embarrassing for our alumni visitors who work so hard getting 3 helmets and whatnot. So can we please don't just sing the Haze, sing everything. I hear you guys at the games sometimes. We cheer. Sammy, here we go, ready, and